Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon, and today I'm bringing you how to set up, play and review the game The Lord of the Rings. As you might be able to tell, this is the German edition. This was found in England in a charity shop for £1.50, and I'll tell you through how to play this game. Of course, there will be some German text, and I'll translate as best I can in this video. So this is basically, if ever you want to have a score sheet to basically score your Hall of Fame. And as with other people I've seen for second-hand copies, they still haven't put stuff in. I use board game stats, which is why I don't bother. So I won't talk about the rulebook, but I will say is you will have information saying, one ring to find them, one ring to bind them, etc. Also, there's some fantastic flavour text. And when I first played this, someone was too scared to see the orcs in a film version of this, Peter Jackson version. And in fact, we read out various chapters as we reached places such as Bag End, Rivendell, Maurya, etc. So that's that. Anyway, it's a very good rulebook. I have got an English copy of this as well, which I've been referring to. So various boards. Now, as I'm setting this up, I will let you know, you won't need the Maurya board straight away. And I will show you the other sides as we will get onto them. But the art is fantastic. And in terms of the art, the illustrator, Canadian-born John Howe, is responsible for the art. And he was hired by Peter Jackson for the films before making this the art for this game, which came out in the year 2000. And the artwork in particular, obviously, was concept art. And either they use the same artwork, I don't know, but it's, as you'll see, it's very similar and very impressive. So this particular game by Dr. Reiner Knizia, he made over 100 games at this point in the year 2000, but it really changed the game in terms of modern cooperative board games. It came out 8 years prior to pandemic, and you'll kind of see my comparisons to that. So we have various components, excellent inlay for this box, quite a heavy, at least 50 grams this weighs, very, very heavy it feels. Sauron, obviously the Eye of Sauron, it's meant to be a lid aside, but as you can see there's a lid on there. And some people call it the monster and the cat and various other names. Obviously the Two Towers effects. It would normally start on the 12 position, but with your intro game, they recommend starting on the 15. As you can see, this is black as well. If you're very good, you can try and win it on 10, which is very difficult typically. And it's not even easy winning it on introductory mode. Even states, even for beginners or even experts, you might still struggle. I'll tell you how that game goes and how we got on our first game in a bit. So for some event tiles, these are very similar to Pandemic, whereby certain things will be happening. And I'll talk to you about those in a moment as I continue setting up this game. So this game is a 2 to 5 player game. However, you can play it solo. And I know people are playing it quite commonly solo. It's a game where you can share and talk about information, but your cards are actually not visible to others. You can talk about what you have, but yes, you can't show your cards. So you have various life tokens. You're going to have sun, you're going to have hearts, and you have rings. You don't necessarily want rings because they are going to actually mean you're more susceptible to corruption. So in the Lord of the Rings, depending on the amount of players that you have, you're obviously going to choose various characters. So let me show you who we have. We have got Merry, we have Sam, we have got Frodo, we have got Pippin, and we have Fatty Bolger, the fifth Beatle, as Rado refers to him as. So this is Dick, or this is the German name, so Fatty. Okay, so we're going to put him away for the time being and get out those cones in a second. So as for these characters, I happen to play as Pippin before. I'll talk about what Pippin can do potentially in a bit. We're just going to set this up for 2 players initially because of the 2, you're playing specifically with certain cards, Frodo and Sam. So you take obviously the respective miniature, which do look rather nice here. Just trying to get some zoomage going on here. If I can recall which of the 4 cameras is the 5K camera. I think I need to be zooming on here. Let's see if I can get it in a bit. It should be down this corner, I think. Can't seem to get any zoomage. Apologies for that. I'll have some separate photos available Instagram. So of course, do check out the descriptions and follow through on that. Also, you can follow via Patreon and stuff like that. So if this ring, the ring bearer will wear this or have it next to them. And of course, it's a burden. It literally is, because it's wide, it is quite tricky to hold it next to your finger. So it definitely adds very thematically to the game. So the ring bearer, which is Frodo initially, will have the ring. At the end of each round, at the end of each adventure, whoever's the most rings will have the ring. Okay, so we've set out our characters. This is the corruption track. The game will end for any character. I say at end, they just become kind of an NPC character that's going to start being a consultant and helping the others. If ever this reaches a spot where Sauron is, yes, they are eliminated from the game. The aim of the game is not to be eliminated and at least have one person, of course, who will be left with the ring, because if you're out, it's going to go to someone else, and they must reach Mordor. Okay, so Mordor's over here, so we're going through all the places you may be familiar with in the book, or books, and continue on from there. So, what else is there to talk about? Well, we have extra cards that will show you what's behind here. We talked about Pippin, we've got these cones, which will set up, and there are various things we're going to be doing on the game. We're going to be hiding, so this is where the hiding is. We're going to hide in trees and stuff. We're going to be fighting with these pole axes, and we're going to be travelling by foot. And what we're trying to do is collect shields. Shields give us points at the end of the game should we win. And here's various amount of points we can get up to as and when we reach the end. So on this board, we're only going to reach 20 points. You're trying to reach 60 points, and you'll see that on the other maps, and I'll show you in a moment. But ultimately, if you die, we all die together, we'll get 10 points at the end of the game. So I'll put Pippin away. Let me talk about him very briefly though. What he can do is he can play certain cards. So there are 60 cards in the game, and he can play a shadow card, as they're called, like a grey-backed card. And he can play 2 of them, so there are a few grey-backed cards in here, or he can play 2 white cards on their turn. Normally, any other character can only play 1 of them and 1 of those. So that's like grey and white. There's a die, which we'll talk about in a moment. What this will be doing, this is going to be used to move your character forwards. Again, you do not want this to happen. There's nothing good about it happening forwards, because you're obviously increasing your peril and the likelihood of the game ending sooner for any of those characters. So if you roll a 3, and I'll get onto when that happens, you're moving forward 3 spaces. If you roll a 2, obviously 2. 1 is 1. Iris Sauron moves forward, which of course is even worse, because sometimes you can move your own character back. Blank, nothing happens, 1 in 6 chance of that, and 2, you're going to discard 2 cards. Okay, so everybody. So firstly, we meet Gandalf. Gandalf is there to give us 6 cards each. So of course, this will be blind. Let's just grab the first 6 cards. So 6. And as you can see, I haven't actually sorted these cards. 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 cards each. And then what happens? Well, we have a preparation stage. This is if you've played the game before, it's recommended. If you want to do it, you're going to have one of these event cards revealed. And if you want to reveal it, then what you can do is you can then swap 4 cards around to help you prepare for the start of the adventure. In this case, what happened is the ring bearer, something negative is going to happen to them. They're going to be moving forward on this space. So that's bad. So let's talk to you about what's in here. We have got travelling. What this allows you to do is increase on the travelling track. So that goes to there. In this case, nothing happens. We can unlock various extra things, such as a book. Obviously, you can get a ring, you get a heart and stuff like that. And at the end of each adventure, you want to ideally have a ring, heart, and also one final thing, a sun. So you're trying to progress across all of these tracks, which we'll talk about a bit. But ultimately, this adventure, this scenario in Maurya, will not end until this cone, which you do not want to leave in front of, because that will poke your eye out, is once it reaches here, the 20 track. Okay, so in terms of preparation, this is a bigger shield. What you're doing is you're grabbing 2 of the 1s, 2 of the 2s, and 2 of the 3s. You're then taking them, putting them face down, and just in terms of components, they're a little thin, they do slip around a bit. You do need all these components throughout the game, as you'll get through most of them. So shuffle these up, and if you happen to win the bit in Maurya, then that'll end that part there. And it'll take one of those tokens because it's a larger shield. Now, the other way to end an adventure is reaching this bottom track here, and we'll talk about how this happens as well. We will need an extra cone, so let's just grab an extra cone. That's just in the box here, and again, really do apologise for not having the tripod. I am filming this in Germany currently. So we have another ring. There's 2 of those in the game. We've got some friendship, so that can be nice. And if ever you reveal anything other than one of these standard symbols, then you're going to have to draw another one. So fighting, so you move up on the fighting track, where you've got some more hiding. Other tracks, so for example, you can either advance down here, and this is never good. This ultimately is going to get worse. Either you have to complete certain objectives, or a negative thing will happen, or sometimes you might get a positive thing in the earlier parts of the game. So in this case, you can discard a card, so a grey-back card, you discard one of your life tokens, and you discard one of your shields. What else do we have? Some more fighting, we have got more of these sundials. There's 8 of these sundials, and as you can see, there are fewer than 8 spaces. So these do come up, and you do really have to watch out for them. If you reveal one of these, you still have to draw until you get one of these standard style adventure tiles as well. Okay, so there you go, lots of variety going on there. So, we've talked about the preparation. Now the Nazgul arrive. So collectively, we need to have one person discard 2 hiding ones. So luckily, we have 2 hiding. So let's say it's Sam. He can discard 2 of them, so they're gone. They're just going to a discard, leave them face up. And thankfully we can do that. Otherwise the Eye of Sauron move forwards 1 space. So that has been Bag End. We need our final counter, our cone here. And now we're moving over to Rivendell. So now I want to talk about some more of these cards in here. Well, we've got Gandalf, which I'll come back onto. So you have various cards that Gandalf can come along and help us with. He can help us by looking at some cards. He can maybe help with various other things, give someone a Joker card. There are no Joker cards visible at the minute, but if we happen to have one, I'll quickly grab one for you. If you happen to have a Joker cards are wild cards, so you can use them, for example, for instead of hiding or whatever else you want it to be. And also let's talk about our character cards. So Sam, if ever he happens to roll a die and he rolls a 3 or a 2, it just counts as a 1, so it's very good for not moving along. And it happened to be Sam who first got to Mordor, fun enough. And aside from that, we have Frodo, who can be using Jokers more effectively as well. Any white card is basically a Joker, so that's very good. Okay, so now we've got various other things happening. We've talked about Gandalf. They have costs here, they're all cost 5, so you can always chuck in some shields. So if you happen to reach a total of 5 shields, so however you make that up, then you of course can get one of Gandalf's effects, and that's then discarded. We happen to use all of them in the game. So now I've sorted this based on the fact that we're in Rivendell. So there are 12 cards for Rivendell, and these can be shuffled up and handed out equally amongst the players. So again, there's going to be 12 cards, and you have things like Glamdring here. We've got Sting, as you can see, various Joker powers going on here. Legolas, everyone who's relative and relevant to, of course, the area for Rivendell. So you're taking these cards, you're going to shuffle them all up and deal them out. So of course, on 2-player, getting 6. As we played it last time as a 4, you'd get 3 cards each. And that's Rivendell. Aside from that, there's one other thing that happens over here, and that's to do with, obviously, everybody has to pass a card, and also we have to have one person, every person has to have a friendship card, otherwise we're going to have an issue going on with this particular event card. So then we move over to Maurya, and Maurya brings us down to this board. And now again, speaking about our cards, starting with whoever's going first, which will be the ring bearer, I believe, in this particular scenario, we now have to have the first player choose to firstly always reveal one of these event cards, event tile. So firstly, they're moving along on the foot track, so the travel track, and now they can discard 1 to 2 cards. So let's say they have these 6 cards. They could choose to discard another travel track, so let's do that. And now they've moved there. Now remember, they've got to play a different colour, so they've got to play white now. So they could do it again, and now they've gone up here. So now in total, they've got 2 shields, have 2 shields in front of them. And now it's the other person's turn. So the first thing they'll do is reveal a token, and they have travel again. So it'll be Sam travelling. Sam will take a sun, and then of course he's got some cards. He's got 4 cards, and he could keep on travelling, so he can still boosting this one along. And he's got some friendship as well. Now, bear in mind, there's various things at certain stages. So as and when we have certain things come up, so as this goes down due to certain time appearing, what that means is suddenly the group has to give up, in this case, a friendship card and a Joker card. Otherwise, we're going to have Sauron advance. So that's the Maurya track. You're trying to get this particular one all the way up to 20. And of course, that completes the element of Maurya. We'll have a quick look at the next board. So of course, please ensure you like and share and comment. We now have Helm's Clam. Guess what this is? This is Helm's Deep. Beautiful imagery once again. Of course, there's orcs with these red eyes down here. Again, various things getting worse, different kind of events, various things you need to be doing. Of course, lots more fighting going on here. So we're going on, and of course, you're trying to reach 40 again. A larger shield, again, it will give you another one of those secret tokens. So that has been Maurya. Fantastic artworks coming back for, of course, the Balrog versus Gandalf. Let's just talk to you about the next one. So we've now got Shelob's Lair. Now, even though the word for Shelob isn't in the German language, they chose not to use the name Shelob. They call it Krankras for some odd reason. Even Germans don't know why they didn't call it Shelob. And as you can see, we've got, interesting over here, we've got Gollum hiding in the corner, very much hiding right up out of the way there. You can barely see him, especially with the shimmer, but you can see Gollum hiding. And let's just see, whilst I've got that zooming in, if we can get more detail on these little characters. Come on. It doesn't seem to like it. Don't know what is going on with that. Okay, so on the automatic focus isn't working. So here we go. More stuff's going on, and it's obviously all thematic. So it's Gollum's turn to talk. Obviously, we've got Sam down here. We've got Frodo already has been obviously wrapped up in silk. So more stuff's going on. More people could be unlocked. So in this case, when you get to this point, you get Faramir entering the game. He has different abilities. He has things. So of course, different cards will come into play. So we have Maurya, where that book we talked about. So that book gives you an extra tree and stuff like that. So more things to get. You can have all these cards visible relative to where you're going. And then finally, of course, you reach the end of that track, or of course, this reaches the end. You're on to the final element, which is Mordor. So we're now over at Mordor, and here we go. So suddenly, you've got various things that can unlock, you have Arwen and stuff like that. Garn, of course, not really talked about too much. We have obviously Gollum still watching on, and again, you're going to want to get all the way to 60, and then at this point, whoever's there needs to roll a die, and of course, they need to make sure that they're still not far enough to have reached Sauron, or Sauron reaches them, and suddenly the ring is able to get played here, and then any active player, so the current active player, needs to roll one more time, and actually, well, that's obviously pretty significant, getting a 3, but of course, if it's Sam, only moving once, and of course, you want to make sure that you're still close enough that, of course, Sauron has not been met, and then, of course, then that one ring has been destroyed. And then, of course, read the flavour text as well. Now in our game, this happened to be where we ended up, happened to be 9, happened to be Sauron on 13, but that was still quite close. Of course, we started on 15, so of course next time we start on 12, which would still be very perilous. We still felt that even at this point, you know, could we have done it, because we could have gone out. So we did win our first game. Of course, we did use, I think, all but one of the Gandalf cards, as and when we had them, and at the end of the game, you get points equal to, of course, 60 points if you win, and you'll also get shields as well. Now, you can play it competitively, in which case you get points equal to how many shields you have each. It's quite an interesting, different way of play, and of course, it looks brilliant. So as for the gameplay, it's very nice. It's very much like Pandemic. Yes, it's a hand card management game, and you need to be playing out certain things. It's very, obviously, talkative. You're deciding and choosing, obviously, what is relevant and of use. It's, obviously, there is some luck, of course, with this die. You could use cards or something, but it's effective. It does kind of add to the chaos of it, though, so thematically I think it works very strongly. Love the idea of these cards as and when they come into play, and of course, it's all about those symbols and how that works. So it's some fantastic design for a game, of course. Had nothing before it that really had this level of depth of theme and of gameplay as well. So very, very strong, it really ties very well together. Of course, the peril track is brilliant to see. Obviously, the artwork is obviously off the charts, so you can't beat that. The cone's a bit odd. I mean, I don't know why they have to be that. Maybe it's the distance, you're trying to see something. At least it's not a cube, I guess, which is at least a good thing. And of course, being a cone, it doesn't obviously go anywhere, which is good. So, of course, we talked about these, hard to zoom in and look into the detail of these characters, but these are fantastic as well, about 28 millimeters. Of course, I've talked about the cards. The cards are quite thin. But as you can see, for a 21-year-old game, very effective. These tiles are fine as well. Like I said, just like in Pandemic, they're like your, what's it called, infection rises kind of stuff. So there's that too. The cards are all backed correctly, so you can tell what's what. And of course, the special cards have got a different symbol on them as well. As I said, these do slide around a bit, so that's the only kind of negative there. I like the fact each character is different. That's really cool as well. Now, even though it's 60 to 90 minutes, I felt it's been a lot longer. I've got some notes here. And, well, so let's start with my total review. I would give this game kind of a 7 out of 10. I think it's really holds up for its day. I think it's really good. Again, a little lucky. And of course, you've got to make sure your cards are there. You can take some negative stuff. Sometimes on your turn, you can rest and basically not hand out a card or two, which allows you to draw more cards. Normally, you can draw an extra 2 cards. And have the option as well of going back a space instead. So sometimes going back is very handy. Sometimes, yes, you can drop to 4 cards. So I'm pretty much covering you very much an overview for the game, not absolutely everything in detail. But yes, it did feel slightly long for that first play. That first play did take a few hours. I think generally speaking, it's around 2 hours to play. So you might speed up with more time, but it's not a game you necessarily want to rush. But Pandemic is a quicker game. You are playing Pandemic in under an hour and 45 odd minutes. And for that reason, I much prefer, I think, Pandemic. Yes, you have a route in a way going on here, but I very much like the element of that too. And I think there's a bit of a downtime in most of your turns. When you're playing as a 4, for example, there's very little for you to do for a few minutes typically. Aside from that, there are other various Lord of the Rings games I've played, War of the Ring, Lord of the Rings, the dual game as well. So there's that, War of the Ring. Plus there's Journey to Middle-earth, which hopefully I'll be able to get a copy of as well. And there's also Lord of the Rings, the card game, which I do have. I haven't played yet or made a video for as well. So of course, please subscribe, like, and share, as well as hit the notification bell to be notified when that comes out. This will be in the playlist, how to set up, play, and review. I think I've covered everything else I like. Of course, I remember the cards are hidden, so you have to make sure you are talking. Aside from that, yeah, I think this covers everything off. So this has been set up. I think it's now going to get played hopefully shortly again. Very enjoyable. Of course, this is in German, but hopefully it does look quite impressive when you see it in English as well. Thank you very much.